The Exchange is your ticket to no surcharge withdrawals, deposit, and PIN changes at over 2,300 ATMs across Canada. Get the ATM Locator app at keepyourchange.ca. Keep your change. Use The Exchange.
Digging the dirt on your gardens. You're listening to the Dirty Gardener Show right here on 93.3 CFMU with your host, Sarah.
Hello, everybody.
And our new rapper, in-house,
Andrea.
Hi there.
The beatbox.
And don't forget Frank on the buttons there.
Hello.
Yeah, working them hard.
I'm working the buttons.
So, what's going on, guys? How's your winter going?
Winter's great.
Yes, lovely.
There hasn't been much of a winter so far.
No, there hasn't.
It
well, we
snowed
haven't.
The other day.
Yes, this is true.
But before that, we've been having 15 Celsius, 20, 25 Celsius. I was working in my T-shirt.
That's true. It's been all
I
over the
ripped my
place.
shirt right off.
It's felt pretty nice, but I do have concern, very much concern about the plants. Because at the school we go to at Niagara Parks, there's a lot of bulbs that have been emerging, which is really not good.
Yeah, but what do we care about plants? They can do what they want.
Everything.
We're only doing a show about them.
One of the important things about snow cover is that it acts as a mulch for plants. So and a mulch in wintertime acts as an insulator. So what happens is when the temperatures start dropping and they get to freezing points, normally what would happen is the ground would start freezing. But the mulch on top, or in this case the snow, acts as an insulating barrier. So plants that are normally not quite as hardy in this zone have this insulation to protect them against the freezing properties of the wintertime. So if you have all of a sudden, you have these changes between hot and cool, freezing and thawing, it can damage a lot of the plants.
Yes.
And especially in the case of the bulbs, it tricks them into thinking that it's time for spring.
It tricks them.
It does. And so they start coming up early. And the problem with that is that
they got tricked.
All of a sudden they get freeze again, and your poor bulbs are gone.
Yeah.
So.
We used to insulate our bulbs like that when I worked in Toronto.
What were you insulating?
Bulbs.
You're insulating your bulbs.
Bulbs. Yeah, bulbs.
Yeah, you don't want them to
bulbs.
be
No, you don't.
Bulbs. We insulated them that way, and then at spring we dug the snow off them, took them out, and took them off to clients' places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we had them all labeled and everything. It was great.
We actually had at the school a Hamamelis mollis, which is a Chinese witch hazel.
Yes.
And
beautiful.
Normally they bloom in, I'd say, March to April.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in full bloom the last few weeks just because of the warmer temperatures. We probably won't get a good flower show in a few months.
Yeah, and actually, considering that, I know we had rhododendrons that were blooming into about December because of the really warm period we suddenly had. We had a period where it was like 12, 13, 14 degrees. Mm-hmm. And so the rhodos were forced into bloom at that time. And there was down the west end of the property, some of the rhodos were almost in full flower. So when that happens now, you know that come springtime, those buds are going to be finished, and you're not as going to get a nice show.
Frank and I could beat that.
What happened?
In October, late October. Remember, we went to the client's place, and her Bergenia was still blooming in October.
Do remember that.
Late October.
That's incredible.
And it looked lush.
Nice. I do remember that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The other two were gone, but the one was in full bloom.
Yeah.
You've seen it before, too, the
I
one
have.
under the Japanese maple.
It's placed in the exact right position. Bergenias are a really interesting plant. They're also called pig squeak, for anybody who have never heard of them before. And there's a very good reason why they're called pig squeak.
Why are they called pig squeak?
Because when you rub their leathery leaves, you hear a squeaking noise like a pig.
Oh,
Yeah.
Squeal like a pig.
Yeah, they squeal like a pig.
do.
They have a beautiful fleshy leaf, bright green, and start going red towards the winter time. It's a succulent leaf, so they can hold quite a bit of water, and they have beautiful pink flowers that come up normally, in this case, in late spring.
Yep.
Depending on what type of Bergenia you have.
I've never tried rubbing those succulent
You should
leaf.
try it.
Yeah.
So do I have to rub it slowly and gently, or in a romantic way, or is it just rough? They like it rough. Just give it a little bit of a squeak.
They're a beautiful plant and certainly worth putting in your garden. You just need a well-drained soil, someplace that you can get a little bit of protection during the summertime. So if they get a little bit of shade, that's good. They don't like poor drainage. They will do very poorly for themselves if it gets really wet, especially during the springtime. So just give them a nice, well-drained, sandy, loamy area. They like watering. They don't like to dry out completely, so make sure that you do irrigate them somewhat. So, yeah, they're a beautiful plant. But one of the topics we wanted to discuss on the show today was actually something that me and Andrea ran into when we were at the Landscape Ontario Congress a couple weeks ago. And this was actually towards the end of the Congress. We had just run into a booth. You actually spotted it from across the convention center.
Yes. I spotted two of the booth babes.
No, it was actually not one with booth babes.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't the Stone Company.
Or the other one that starts with an S.
Still? the company that
still had a great booth out there. A very nice booth.
But anyway, so we were walking past this, and you saw it, and you exclaimed that you wanted to go check it out. Now, what was this booth that we were looking at?
It was a company promoting, a growth stimulant that contains mycorrhizal fungi.
Ooh, mycorrhizal fungi. Now, that's a new word.
Yes.
It's a fancy term.
It's a mouthful.
So, have you guys ever heard of mycorrhiza?
Yes.
Yes.
You have? Frank, have you ever heard of mycorrhiza?
I haven't.
No, so why don't we explain it a little bit?
For me.
For you and for the rest of the listeners out there. So mycorrhiza are a fancy little fungus.
It's fancy.
They're a little fancy.
They hang out in the soil, and they actually interact with plant material. And they form a very beneficial, very symbiotic relationship with plant roots. And what they do is they form little filaments that will actually bury through the soil and then attach onto plant roots. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a couple different types, but this is generally how they act. And what they basically do is they interact with the plants. The plants gives them sugars, and then the mycorrhiza, the fungus, pulls up nutrients and water from the soil and passes it onto the plant roots.
It's kind of like the relationship between Spider-Man and Venom.
Yeah, they help each other out.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly. So they work together to help each other. Mm. And there's actually plants that normally have this, like legumes will have this interaction. They have mycorrhiza that are constantly associated with them. And that's what normally, when we hear the word mycorrhiza or rhizobia, we think of.
And I think it's a topic that not a lot of gardeners know about because it's not really a visual thing. Like you see the growth potential that could happen with the plant, but because it's underneath the soil and you can't disturb them.
It's hidden, yeah.
You're not aware maybe as much
for sure.
that they're there. But over 90% of plants have a symbiotic relationship with these kind of fungi.
It's true.
It's very interesting what goes on in the underground of the plants, in their bedrooms.
There's a whole nother world in the soil.
There is. If only you could see
the private life of what actually happens to the plants.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how big of an impact that will have on the growth and the development of the plants.
It's private.
It's private. It's a private, but it's a super alliance between the plants and the fungus.
When we try and observe it.
Yeah.
They don't like that.
They're shy.
It's really interesting topic because what I learned last year was that there's the types of relationships. So more woodland plants, forested plants, more long-term plantings you have of shrubs or trees, they tend to be more of a fungal relationship. But the short-term plants like annuals or vegetables, they have more of a relationship with the bacterial type.
And they have their own particular qualities and benefits for each one.
It's like the dating world and the plant world.
It is. Certain types of plants are benefited by certain types of fungus or certain types of bacteria. So, as we said before, the end result of having plants that have these beneficial relationships with these fungi, these mycorrhiza, is that you end up with these larger, healthier plants. And it's an incredible benefit.